Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So if you're new here, I'm a local Northern Kentucky realtor, and today we're diving into a topic that almost every buyer and seller encounters, but very few truly understand, and that's title insurance. Now I know just hearing those words might sound a little dry or overly technical, and I completely understand why most people's eyes glaze over when the subject comes up. But here's the thing, if you're buying or selling a home, this is one of the most important things you can wrap your head around, because title insurance isn't just another piece of paper you sign at closing. It's not just another fee on that long list of closing costs. Title insurance is literally the thing that protects your right to own your property. In some situations, it's the only thing standing between you and a very expensive, very stressful legal nightmare. So let's start from the beginning and build a clear picture. What is title insurance? In the simplest possible terms, it's an insurance policy that protects you from defects or issues in the ownership history of your property. Every single home, every single piece of land has a story. Sometimes that story is neat and clean, with every deed properly signed, every mortgage released, and every lien satisfied, and everything recorded exactly as it should be. But other times, the story has a few twists. Maybe there was a deed forged decades ago. Maybe an heir was missing when the estate was settled. Maybe a lien was recorded but never paid off. And here's the kicker. Even if you have absolutely nothing to do with any of those problems, they can still come back years later to threaten your ownership. That's where title insurance steps in. Now, here's one of the first things that makes title insurance unique. Most of the insurances you're familiar with, like auto, health insurance, protects you from things that might happen in the future. If you get into an accident tomorrow, your car insurance helps. If you get sick next week, your health insurance covers it. Title insurance is the opposite. It looks backwards. It protects you from problems that already happened in the past, but are only just now surfacing. And that's an important distinction, because when you buy a house, you want to know that the seller actually has the legal right to transfer it to you. And you want to know that no one else can show up after the fact claiming that the sale wasn't valid. Imagine this. You buy a house, you move in it, everything seems great. But then one day, you get a letter in the mail from an attorney saying someone else has a legal claim to your property. Maybe it's an unpaid contractor's lien from the previous owner. Maybe it's a family member who says they were entitled to part of the estate when the property was sold. Without title insurance, you're on your own. You had to hire an attorney, pay legal fees, and fight it out in court. But if you had title insurance, the title company steps in. They provide you legal defense, they cover the costs, and if the claim ends up being valid, they compensate you for your loss. That's the kind of safety net you really don't want to go without. So why does this even exist in the first place? Well, in the United States, ownership of real estate has always been tracked through public records. Every deed, every mortgage, every transfer is recorded at the county courthouse. And in Kentucky, those records go back a very long way. But here's the reality. The system isn't perfect. Mistakes happen. Some deeds weren't signed properly. Some weren't filed in the right order. And handwritten documents from decades ago can be difficult to interpret. Sometimes, families transfer land informally without ever recording it. And unfortunately, fraud has always existed too. People pretending to own property they don't are just forging signatures to push through a sale. Without some form of protection, every time a property changes hands, the buyer would basically be gambling. They'd be hoping that nothing from the past was going to pop up later and cause a problem. That's why title companies come into existence. So when you buy a home, one of the key steps in closing is a title search. The title company, or sometimes an attorney, will dig through those public records, looking at deeds, mortgages, tax bills, liens, court judgments, anything that could affect ownership. So their job is to make sure that what you're buying is clear. You'll often hear the phrase clear and marketable title. That simply means you own it, free of defects, and you could sell it again in the future without anyone questioning your rights to do so. But here's the truth. No matter how detailed or thorough a search is, no one can guarantee that absolutely every problem has been caught. Some issues are hidden, records might be missing or incomplete, errors might not surface until years later. So a forged document from decades ago might look completely valid until someone challenges it in the courts. That's where the insurance piece comes in. Title insurance is there as a backup to protect you when their hidden defects show up later. Now, when we talk about title insurance, there are usually two policies involved. The first is a lender's policy. So if you're getting a mortgage, your lender is going to require this. It protects the bank's financial interest in your property until the loan is paid off. But here's the thing most buyers don't realize. That policy does not protect you. It protects the bank. The policy that protects you is the owner policy. And in Kentucky, the owner policy is technically optional. But I'll tell you right now, as someone who's been in real estate a long time, it's not optional in practice. I will always recommend it. The cost is usually a one-time fee paid at closing, and it protects you for as long as you own the home. So let's walk through another example. Picture yourself buying a home in Northern Kentucky. Everything at closing goes perfectly, you get your keys, you move in, and life is good. But then a year later, someone knocks on your door saying they're heir to the property, and they claim they've never signed off on the sale and that the property was sold without their consent. Without title insurance, you're suddenly in a legal battle. You have to pay out of your pocket for attorneys and court fees. And if you lose, you could lose the home entirely. But with title insurance, you're not fighting that battle alone. The title company steps in, defends you, and if the claim is valid, you're compensated. That kind of peace of mind is priceless. So let's talk about some of the quirks that are specific to Kentucky, because every state handles those matters differently. For starters, Kentucky is what's known as a split state when it comes to closings. In some parts of the state, attorneys handle the process. In Northern Kentucky, where I work, it's more common for title companies to take the lead. Depending on where you're buying, you might have an attorney preparing your documents and running the title search, or you might have a title company doing it. Both systems get you the same results, but it's important to know that the process isn't a one-size-fits-all here. Kentucky also has an incredible long history of land records, which can make title searches both fascinating and tricky. In older parts of the state, it's common to find deeds that describe property using landmarks that no longer exist. A deed might say something like, "From the big oak tree to the creek bend," which might have been perfectly clear back in 1908, but leaves plenty of room for confusion today. Surveyors and title companies have to sort through those vague descriptions and piece together what the original boundaries were. It could be complicated, and it's another reason why having title insurance in place is so critical. Another factor here in Kentucky involves liens and unpaid property taxes. If a previous owner fell behind on taxes or had a judgment filed against him, those claims can stick to the property even after it changes hands. A good title search is going to catch some of those issues, but every once in a while something gets overlooked or resurfaces years later. I've seen situations in rural counties where an old unpaid debt tied to farmland popped up long after the land had been subdivided and sold multiple times without title insurance. The new owner could be dragged into that mess. With it, they're protected. Often in Northern Kentucky, because of our proximity to Ohio, buyers and sellers move back and forth across the river all the time. And Ohio handles certain aspects of closing differently. Sometimes buyers from Ohio assume the rules are the same here, but they're not. That's another place where confusion can creep in. Having title insurance isn't just about protecting yourself from the unknown, it's also about having the peace of mind in case those differences in state law or closing practices come into play. So as we start to bring this full circle, I want to pause and really emphasize why this matters so much. Buying a home is one of the biggest financial commitments most people will ever make. You're not just buying 4 walls and a roof. You're buying the legal right to own and occupy that property. If something threatens that right, it doesn't matter how much you love the house, how beautiful the kitchen is, or how great the neighborhood feels. If you don't have clear ownership, your entire investment is at risk. I've seen buyers look at their closing costs and feel overwhelmed. I get it. There's a lot of line items on that sheet, and it's tempting to think, do I really need this? But when it comes to title insurance, the answer is yes. Skipping it is one of the riskiest moves a buyer can make. It's like walking a tightrope without a safety net. Sure, maybe you'll never have a problem, and years later you'll think, I saved a few $100s back then. But maybe you'll be the one who gets that letter in the mail, or that call from the county, or that knock on the door. And if that day comes and you don't have a policy, you'll be facing it alone. With a policy, the title company stands behind you, provides a legal defense, and protects you from losing your home or your financial security. So my advice to every buyer is simple. Take time to understand what title insurance is, why it exists, and why going without it just isn't worth the risk. It's not just another piece of paper at the closing table. It's your protection, your peace of mind, and the safety net that allows you to truly own your home without the fear of the past coming back to haunt you. If this is the first time on the channel and you want to know everything there is about living in the Northern Kentucky and surrounding areas, then subscribe below and tap the bell for notifications so you can be the first to learn about the current market in Northern Kentucky. My name is Carrie Empero, and I get calls and emails every single day from people like you, looking to make their move to the Northern Kentucky area. So whether you're moving in 9 or 90 days, just give me a call, shoot me a text, or send me an email. Happy to help you make a smooth move to Northern Kentucky.